And so people who succeed in our firm have truly the highest level of responsibility and personal accountability.
And you mentioned sort of the remote firm, obviously hiring is the first key, but how do you promote the culture and the camaraderie in a remote firm? It's a challenge. I mean, it is, and you got to learn how to do it and figure it out. And any tips you have would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, well, it's
to me and probably to others.
It's funny that you asked that today. We literally just completed a small group retreat in our firm Potluck this weekend. Like I've had, 25 people at my home, from Thursday till yesterday. And so we do all kinds of things. I mean, we do these quarterly small group retreats. We do quarterly leadership retreats. We do a firm potluck once a year. We do all kinds of things on Zoom where we have connection hour.
Welcome to the Founding Partner Podcast. Join your host, Jonathan Hawkins, as we explore the fascinating stories of successful law firm founders. We'll uncover their beginnings, triumph over challenges, and practice growth. Whether you aspire to launch your own firm, have an entrepreneurial spirit, or are just curious about the legal business, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
Welcome to Founding Partner Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Hawkins. This is a podcast where I get to interview law firm founders and owners, hear about their journeys, and hopefully learn a lot about what they have learned along the way so I can implement it with my firm. And maybe you guys listening can implement it with yours. So today's guest, I'm really excited about. We had to reschedule this a few times, but we made it happen. And so welcome to the show. We got Elise Buie today. She is a family law and estate planning attorney in Seattle. Elise, welcome to the show. Why don't you tell us about yourself, your firm, and then we'll dive in.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me. And thank you for the reschedules, those that were on me. I really appreciate it. So like he said, I do own a family and estate planning law firm in Seattle. I've been running the firm for about 10 and a half years now. We are a remote firm. We've always been remote. So even before it was COVID cool to be remote. So that was kind of an interesting journey for us. We have approximately 40-ish people right now between employees, contractors, and we are forever evolving. We've brought on a very high-level leader recently, which is a huge thing for me. And so, it's probably something we can dig into. How do we owners buy back a little bit of our time and sanity in this process?
We all want that.
Yeah.
It's hard to come by sometimes. So you do family law and estate planning. So what's the balance there? I'm curious about, how those two practice areas work and how maybe the percentage of your firm.
We are definitely by far heavier in the family law arena. And we started doing estate planning a few years ago. Really, it was a decision on my part that I had been referring out all of my clients to this other estate planning attorney. And I thought, well, that was sweet of me to literally just develop this guy's practice. So.
When you announced, that was like the worst announcement ever for...
Luckily, we're still friends.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to start back. So you're originally from New Orleans, right? Nolans?
I am.
Yeah. So how did you end up in Seattle?
Yeah, good question. It's a little bit of a trek. Well, when Hurricane Katrina hit, which I just have to put a plug in, last night is the beginning of this National Geographic series, Hurricane Katrina, A Race Against Time. I literally watched like 3 episodes last night. Kind of traumatic, but I was like, wow, that was wild. So that storm moved us. Like we evacuated initially to Georgia, then to Minnesota, and then I got remarried, moved to Seattle, had to get relicensed in Seattle, and after having gotten relicensed in Minnesota. And so, on that third bar exam, there I was all settled in Washington, working for another attorney doing my thing. And she invited me to come on full time. And when she offered me the salary, I was like, girl, you've got to be joking me. And so I thought, yeah, no, I can't do this. And so I started my own practice and have kind of been going ever since then. And it was fun because she was somebody I was able to work with and really mentor through. I mean, she's now passed away, but through the end of her life. And she was like, gosh, I wish I'd met you earlier. Like my firm would have done better. And it's like, but it was kind of cool because she really helped me get into Washington family law, understand all the things I needed to know, introduced me to a lot of people, and I was able to help her. And so it was just one of those kind of cool symbiotic relationships at a great time.
So you said your firm there in Seattle has been remote or virtual the entire time. Was that because of your experience through Katrina or some other reason?
Well, it's funny you asked that. Actually, when Katrina hit, I actually was married to my ex-husband at the time, who was exceedingly tech savvy and kind of tech forward. So he ran a remote law firm in Louisiana when Katrina hit. So I kind of got to see what was possible, really early on. When I started my firm in Seattle, we had an office in downtown Seattle, a little one. I mean, we still have a little office in downtown Seattle. We don't go to it very much at all. I mean, I've only stepped into it one time, I think, in 5 years. So, but I knew at the time that I started this firm that I needed the flexibility. I mean, I was newly remarried. My husband manages oceanographic research vessels all over the world. So his work requires him to travel just all over the place. And so I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do my job, parent these children, travel. I was like, something's got to give here. And so lucky for me that Washington is very forward focused and progressive. And, we had electronic filing from long ago, and we were able to do a lot of the things. So I have been able to do this remotely for a very long time. And that has allowed me to really be able to be a good mom, a good wife, and a good lawyer.
So, I mean, when COVID hit, accelerated everybody else. These slow lawyers finally got up to speed. But it also changed the way lawyers interact with clients. So, it used to be a lot of clients wanted to come in and meet people in person, and now they don't care about that anymore. So back when you started the remote, was that important at all, or how did you get over that back in the day?
Well, back in the day, I did meet people in person a lot. I mean, they would come downtown to our little office. We had a conference room attached. And I would meet them in person. But even then, I think because of Seattle's population, super tech heavy, you know what I mean? Like we've got Amazon people, Microsoft people. They do not want to sit in Seattle traffic. Like what? They're thinking, are you kidding me? I can push a few buttons and see you. I'm all good. And so, I think because of that population, the traffic in Seattle, which everybody just despises, that it kind of made it easier to do it remotely. People were not as dead set on meeting. Now, that being said, I mean, I am definitely the person that every so often I might be involved in a case, especially in a collaborative family law case. I'd go to my client's home. I mean, I remember one client, she was struggling. I mean, I literally picked up Starbucks coffee and drove to her house, met her in her kitchen. She was in her PJs and fuzzy slippers. And I was like, we can do this here just as easy as we can do it anywhere. And so, in that regard, I would say that one-to-one meeting was super powerful. But I mean, I can still do that now if I want, Most people don't want me showing up at their house, though.
If you bring coffee anytime, So when you practiced law in New Orleans, did you do family law down there, or was it something different?
No, I did not. I did insurance defense litigation. I worked for a pretty big firm, did med mals, general liability defense. Then I quit the practice of law to stay home with children. Then, Katrina hit, moved, did all that evacuating all around and got divorced. and then went back. And so in Minnesota, though, I started a family law firm in Minnesota because I was going through a divorce, dealing with all the co-parenting things. And I thought, if I'm going to study like 20,000 hours on how to co-parent successfully, I might as well just put that into practice.
So how long were you in Minnesota? I mean, you started a firm there and then...
I did. Yeah. For 5 years. We lived in Minnesota for 5 years.
Okay. So you've done this twice. So I'm curious what it's like to move to a new state where you really you're not embedded in the legal community, and then you've got to start a practice area again. What was that like? You had to do it twice.
Yeah.
I mean, once is a lot. Twice.
Twice is a lot. It's a process. I think that my personality kind of lets it roll with it. And I'm convinced being from New Orleans is critical to my success. Because, I mean, this is going to sound ridiculous, but because, you have a history with New Orleans, the South, the whole thing. In New Orleans, you do not get in an elevator anywhere that you do not make friends with people. So anywhere you go, the grocery store, buildings, wherever you're going, you're making connections. I had no idea that was very weird to New Orleans. So I moved to Minnesota, and there I am chatting it up with the people at the grocery store, the people at the Target, people in buildings when I'm, going to job interviews. And when everyone's looking at me like I have mental health illness, I was like, this is a different environment. Like, they do not have conversations, share recipes, talk about their grandmas, whatever, in elevators. Well, it turns out that they just didn't know that they wanted to do this. So they all got kind of engaged. And so it became almost a thing where when I would meet people would be like, you are very different than most people from Minnesota or most people from Seattle. And so in a way, I think that helped as I networked and, reached out to people, because they'd be like, oh yeah, you're that odd one from New Orleans who's going to talk to people. So, because in Seattle, people are very just quiet, reserved. I mean, they call it the Seattle freeze, and that's not a joke. I mean, you can live here and not know your neighbors. And that is wild to me coming from New Orleans. That is not a possibility in New Orleans, not even slightly. I mean, your neighbor is in your living room while you are pulling the boxes out of your U-Haul truck. I mean, they do not even give you time to get the boxes off the truck before they're like, hey, what's up? Where are you from? What do you want for dinner tonight? What's your favorite cocktail? I'll bring it over. We can sit on the porch.
They're definitely going to ask about your cocktail for sure in New Orleans.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You get your drive-through daiquiris, you know how it is. Yeah.
I didn't know that was weird either till I went to college. And I was like, oh, y'all don't have drive-through daiquiris in Tennessee? What a funny thing.
Yeah. So back to, so you had to learn the practice area in Minnesota and learn the people and develop all the business. And also you pick up and move and you have to do it all again. Obviously you're very outgoing and you're good at that sort of thing. But, how do you sort of establish the practice and get out there and say, hey, I'm here.
Yeah.
Send me cases.
I would say here in Washington, it was very much related to my work as a guardian ad litem. I came in and was able to start working as a guardian ad litem in family law matters very quickly, and two, because of the attorney I worked for before, she helped me know who were the top 15 family law lawyers in the city. So I reached out to every single one of them, took them to lunch, got to know them. And inevitably, as it is true everywhere, family law, you get booming business sometimes where you can't take it all or you have a conflict or whatever. So I was able to bring on cases, almost immediately when I started my practice from that. And then it just grew from there. And I think, being a guardian ad litem, and getting better and better at that work to where attorneys would very much request me to be the guardian ad litem. So then there you are in cases where there's two excellent attorneys on both sides and you're developing those relationships. So in a way, that was such a lucky way for me to do it, because then again, I kept getting referrals from different attorneys all around, and then have gotten referrals from courts, bailiffs, a lot of things related to the guardian ad litem work that I did. I don't currently do guardian ad litem work anymore, but it was a big part of us getting started for sure. And then the other thing that I did was I got a contract with the state almost immediately to do dependency work. And so that was my safety net. Like, so when I'm thinking, here I am starting this practice, I have this contract to do dependency work, and it was a full-time contract. And I thought to myself, if all else fails, I have that. I have my guardian ad litem work. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'd be able to put food on my table and make sure I was doing what I needed to do to support my kids. And then I kind of got that entrepreneur bug, and I just really dug in and, really decided that I could do more, I could help more people, I could bring on people, and it's just kind of grown from there.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. I mean, you got 40 people now. When you started, I assume it was just you. That's a lot of growth, in 10 years. And so, what was that beginning of that process look like? I mean, I've always, my personally and talking to others, I feel like you sort of have to make a decision. Hey, I'm going to go for it. What was the process for you?
Well, it was interesting because when I very first started, I actually had two other people that came to me very immediately. So they were, it's kind of a long story, but I was getting cases, the lower value cases from this larger firm. And so they had these, well, one of them was their employee and another one was kind of like a friend, like the owner went to the dental hygienist and that was the wife of this guy. And so she really was like, Elise, if you'll hire him and then, we'll send over this paralegal too, then, that would be really good. She's like, and I would feel good about all these things. And I'm like, okay, that'll be fine. So I didn't realize just how scary it was to have people, on the payroll immediately. But the minute the guy was able to get his license, because at the time he wasn't licensed, I can't remember exactly, maybe he had just graduated and was taking the bar. And so he then could take on doing the dependency work very quickly. So then I was able to grow the other side of the business while he was kind of managing the dependency work. So, and I don't remember actually if there was some set point. The reality was, as a couple of years in, all of a sudden I had 4 children. Two in college, 2 in private school in Seattle. I'm talking like, $300,000 a year in student, tuition payments. And
Wow.
so there wasn't so much deciding as there was survival. And my ex-husband is not great at his part of the financial piece of all this. So I was like, well, Elise, you better get this figured out real quick. And, because you got tuition bills. And so, it was a wild ride. I do not mean to at all say it was easy. It was hard. I was literally like on little pieces of paper figuring out how I was making every tuition payment, everything. And, I was calling the school and being like, if I pay you 5 days late, is that going to be, a huge thing? Like, what's the deal? It was tough.
Wow. So, yeah, I'm feeling it. Just
Yeah.
hearing you talk about it, I'm feeling it. So what was, this is another thing, people that want to grow, it's, you got to get clients and then you got to get people to help work it. And, what was your experience? What was easier for you? And then, part of this too, and the backdrop is you have a remote virtual firm back before anybody else really did it. So was that a challenge to recruit people to come work for a remote firm, or was it easier?
At the time so before COVID, we stayed very close to our little just 3 of us, 4 of us kind of thing. Not until after COVID started did we really explode our growth. And so I have found, I mean, to be honest, I don't know that I see a difference in getting clients and getting people. I see it really as the flip side of the same thing of like marketing, kind of being your authentic self out in the world and, trying to bring in aligned people and really repel misaligned people. I would say that I did not do as good a job repelling misaligned people at the beginning. And so, nor did I really dig in good enough in the hiring process. I am definitely the weak link in our firm's hiring process because I am oh, I can help that person. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I see those red flags, but that'll be fine. I'll be able to help them. Like, and my team is like, yeah, no, Elise, we're not going to do that.
So have you been removed from the hiring process largely now?
I have largely been removed. We have this one area that we can all agree to. I have what we call the anti-EOR interview. So it's the very last interview, just like 15 minutes, because I cannot work with EORs, period. I have learned that if you are an EOR, you and I are not going to get along at all. And then I'm going to avoid that person. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even want to get on a meeting or anything. So I have to do an anti-EOR interview. And because I really need to work with growth-minded people who are kind of positive and just like, we got this, and they'll roll with things. And I cannot work with the ho-hum, or like, that's how we always do it. And I'm like, well, if we've always done it that way, we probably need to shake it up a little,
Yeah. Yeah, when I was coming up, the firms, they would call it the beer test. We'd go out, see if you pass that. Lots of ways to fail it. Lots of ways.
Lots of ways.
So back to the growth. This is another question that I think about a lot. It's, do you hire before you're overwhelmed with work? Or do you get overwhelmed with work, then hire? What's your approach?
We hire before we get overwhelmed. I mean, our mindset is we are hiring constantly. Like, we are filling a pipeline of aligned potential candidates all the time. And I kind of like to look at it as like a roadmap. So we also use contractors. So like, if we are feeling like maybe we're getting a little overwhelmed, then we might hire a contractor to come in, take off some of that pressure. Maybe they're doing 10 hours a week, then maybe they're doing 20. Once they've hit 20 hours a week, we're looking at a W-2 hire, and then whether that person may or may not be appropriate, depending on what they're looking for, what we're looking for. And so we kind of are doing it like in step, constantly. We're going in and out. And I mean, the hiring process, I would say, is probably one of the most important things when you own a firm, is paying attention to it, making sure you are building out a process that has a robust entry point into your pipeline, and then ensuring that you do have the interviews set up, as well as any testing, personality testing, or maybe skill tests or something you're doing, and really digging in. And I mean, we are now to a point where, I mean, if we get 20 applicants, I mean, we are likely turning away 18 of them, like at the very beginning, from not being a culture fit.
So how did you figure out how to design this hiring process?
Oh,
where did you learn?
Yeah, that's a great question. 2 things. The top grading, there's a book, top grading, there's a class. I love top grading. And then the who process. And so we really have combined those. And I would say we rely heavily on the who process. And really, we prepare scorecards so that we are, looking at comparing candidates to scorecards, and we do it all the same way. We start with our culture interview, and then we kind of go on from there depending on what the position is. And If the person is not a hell yes at every stage, they're a no, and they are getting knocked out. And
I love that. So, okay. So for the people out there that say, hey, I got to fill the spot, man, I'm so busy. I may not find a hell yes. I just got to find somebody. What would you say to that?
I mean, that's okay in that that's going to happen, but be prepared for that to blow up. That person to just resign on a dime or, whatever, which is okay. That's part of the growth process too. I mean, I can't tell you how many people I have had through the years that I have brought on where at some point I ask myself, I'm like, this person is really not a cultural fit, and then I, of course, pull out that handy mirror and ask myself, okay, Elise, which part of this did you have to do with? Usually a lot. And I'm like, okay, what mistake did you make and where was that? And then I have what I call my toleration list. And so when I find that somebody really is not a culture fit in our firm, one, my COO will start hearing about them. Like, they'll hear me mention them multiple times. And she's like, oh, somebody is heading to the toleration list. And, it's a little bit of a joke, but when we realize somebody is misaligned culturally, we realize it's not good for them and it's not good for us. And so really the best thing I can do is put them on my toleration list, have very frank conversations with them about whatever the expectations are, what's going on, have good coaching and support, to see if there's anything we can do, because like if I have improperly brought somebody on that is not a culture fit, like, I mean, sometimes I owe them an apology, I'm like, whoopsie, this was probably not right from the beginning. Kind of to your point, maybe I brought him on in a time when we were really busy and we didn't even do the culture interview,
So, I think anybody that's run a firm long enough, culture, the importance of culture and culture fit and values and all that really becomes extremely evident to them.
Oh.
But it's not always that way in the beginning. Maybe it was for you all the way, but how long did it take you to sort of figure that out and figure out the culture and how important it was?
It took me probably, I would say, 6 years until I really understood, to the point where I would never post that 6-year mark. I mean, I don't think I have considered somebody who is not a culture fit. You know what I mean? Like, it has become very, very important. And, we are strong to say, like, yeah, this is a no, and we don't feel bad. Whereas I think before, again, it was my fault. I would feel bad and I would be like, oh, is this person applying and they're a lovely person and they're, got the skills. But I mean, they can be the most lovely person in the world with the skills, but if they are not a culture fit, and in our firm, being a remote firm has this very unique thing. I mean, one, you better be very tech savvy. You need to be able to deal with things, resolve things, like figure things out. But two, this is probably the most important thing. You have to take the unfettered flexibility that we give you and literally turn that with the most highest personal responsibility, because no one is watching over you every minute. Nobody is, nobody knows if you're at the park playing with your kids, from 12 to 2, which is fine. But then you better be doing the work you needed to do from 12 to 2 at some other point and communicate with your legal team. Do you know what I mean? And have all those things. And so people who succeed in our firm have truly the highest level of responsibility and personal accountability.
And you mentioned sort of the remote firm, obviously hiring is the first key, but how do you promote the culture and the camaraderie in a remote firm? It's a challenge. I mean, it is, and you got to learn how to do it and figure it out. And any tips you have would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, well, it's
to me and probably to others.
It's funny that you asked that today. We literally just completed a small group retreat in our firm potluck this weekend. Like I've had, 25 people at my home, from Thursday till yesterday. And so we do all kinds of things. I mean, we do these quarterly small group retreats, we do quarterly leadership retreats, we do a firm potluck once a year. We do all kinds of things on Zoom where we have connection hour. We, do random events where we do arts and crafts, we do cooking classes, we've done yoga classes together, like just a variety of different things. Then we also just do random small things where, somebody might go host a lunch in Seattle. Like maybe there's a few people going to be around. And so we'll be like, oh, well, let's go have lunch at Ray's, and we'll get that scheduled. We go to conferences together. I often bring multiple people and invite multiple people from different areas to conferences. I mean, just a few weeks ago, I had some lawyers come to an AFCC conference in New Orleans. So I hosted them and, went on a garden district tour and took them to Commanders and, did the things. So it definitely takes intentionality for sure. But I guess I don't think of it as, I feel like I have to do the same intentional things even if I was in an office, because it's pretty easy for the owner to be pretty removed from a lot of things even when they share an office.
Yeah, you get busy doing stuff, that's for sure.
Oh yeah.
So another cool thing you do, at least when we first talked a while back, is you have it's a 30-hour work week, but you pay for 40. What do you call that? And where did that come from?
Well, it's called 30 is the new 40. And it's funny. I mean, I laugh. It came from our potluck last year. And when I announced it, I don't think everybody was thrilled. And so, because I think they looked at it as, oh my gosh, we're going to be doing all 40 of our hours of work in 30. How's that going to work? Blah, blah, blah. And so it's funny because this year at the potluck, I did not announce anything. And so I was like, okay, I won't get myself in trouble this year. But interestingly, since we announced it last year, then we beta tested it. We had one of our paralegals who is kind of loves data and loves to dig in on all those things. She agreed to be our beta tester and literally let us pull down our hours week over week, track all her KPIs. It was a true let's test. And then we got a lot of feedback from her around what worked, what didn't, how we could make it better. And so then we were able to roll it out in January. And we are having, I mean, as typical, some people are absolutely loving it. They do it every week. They hit their KPIs in 30 hours. They've learned to delegate really, really well. And they're like all into it and they're, out there living their best lives with their new 10 hours. Then we have other people that are like, yeah, no, I'm not really trying to be that efficient, Elise. Like, I'm really good with my, system and I'm good. And I'm like, great, you work 40 hours then. I don't care, that is totally your call. So I would say that, on the whole, it's very successful. I mean, obviously, I would love to see everybody be able to get those 10 hours back because, I'm older than a lot of those people. And I sometimes think they don't realize how, quick life goes by and how those 10 hours a week, I mean, that can be really powerful time, whether it's you could be exercising and improving your health. You could be spending more time with your family. You could be pursuing some cool hobby that you don't have time for. I don't know. To me, as a young lawyer, if someone had given me back my 10 hours, I would have been like, oh, that is sweet. I would have taken that and been like, I'll become way more efficient.
Well, it's funny. It's like the opposite of every other law firm. Every other law firm is 60 is the new 40, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah, no. I mean, it's funny, but, and I laugh about it, but just yesterday, there was a couple here, one of the paralegals and her husband. And when they left yesterday, they were leaving to go on a hike and they were just talking about how she has been just completely transformed by this. She used to just be like a total workaholic and constantly working more and more and more. And, that whole billable mindset of like, well, I could be earning more if I'm working more. We do not bonus people for working more than the hours that they have set to work, because I don't want people to get in that mindset and get on that hamster wheel. So, I mean, we bonus people based on KPIs that are more related to behavior. Like, how do they provide feedback to their team members? How do they receive feedback? How do they provide unreasonable hospitality to our clients, to each other? And so that's how people get bonuses, rather than just like, create this billing churn.
So that's cool. So how do you measure that? How do you measure that for bonus purposes?
Well, we track it. So, like in our, they have KPIs around like doing like an unreasonable act of hospitality every week towards a client or towards a team member. And they track it in Clio. Like, we have created a little, category in the activities. And so VAs can go in and track what's being done by everybody. And then same with like, feedback. And we have one KPI now related to really celebrating your team members, like really giving kudos when, those are warranted. Because I find we sometimes, me included, big time, like there's me pulling out my mirror again. I forget to say when people do a great job. You know what I mean? And so we've decided to put a KPI on that. So we encourage people to look for when people are doing a good job, and really call it out. I mean, kind of like, when you have kids, they really teach you, you got to look for the good behavior rather than just only pick out the bad behavior.
So, okay, so let's say somebody does do that recognition. Who records it? The person that does it or the person that received it? How are you making sure that you keep track of that stuff?
The virtual assistants manage all the recording of those things. So like if one of those is done, publicly in a celebration channel where, the whole firm sees it, that VA is going to pull it. And maybe if they've done it somewhere else, then likely the person providing the feedback is going to let the VA know, but they're going to record it in Clio. I mean, we are really kind of crazy, like probably a little over the top crazy about using Clio as our shared brain for all things, so that, like VAs can go in and track all these metrics, and I can go in and look at matters and see, one of our metrics is Clio hygiene, we call it. So like that everyone has a forward focused task on every matter, so that if anyone were to pick up a matter, let's say somebody leaves or somebody's sick or whatever, I could go in and do that next step on that case without missing a beat. And then I can also look at the Clio notes, and there should be a note, a substantive note regarding client contact within a 2-week look back on every matter. So I should be able to see the most recent communication, and it should not be older than 2 weeks on every matter. So, at a minimum, I can go in, or somebody can go in and triage things pretty successfully without missing a beat. I mean, let's say we missed 2 weeks, but I mean, we don't, because we track other things. But you know what I mean? Worst case scenario, you would be in a little 2-week window where you're like, oh, I don't know what happened last week. And that's a lot easier to handle than, where a lot of people's case management practices are. And they're like, I got no idea what's going on in this case. And we, like everything else, I mean, we had an experience where I had an attorney go on emergency medical maternity leave on a dime. Like, she called me, I was in a mediation, and she's like, Elise, I need you to step out of the mediation and I need to talk to you. So she tells me that she's at the doctor's office, she's being put on bed rest, she cannot work 20 minutes from now. Like, so I've got 20 minutes to pick her brain and understand what is happening in 34 litigation cases while I'm in a mediation. So you can imagine how cute that was. And after that, this girl was like, oh yeah, we're never doing that again. Like,
wow. So, okay. So when you say, like, back to the sort of the They make a public call out, something good somebody did. How do you record that in Clue? I'm curious. Is it a time entry? Is it a note? Is it?
It's a time entry, and they put in the activity code for it, so
Ah,
so our VAs can track based on activity codes. And it would be, a non-billable time entry that they are tracking, but the main thing is to tag it as such, like, so we have a unreasonable hospitality tag so they can go in and search for those things. And yep, and that's just what allows us. We do bonuses quarterly, and so like they can earn up to 10% of their quarterly salary in bonus every quarter if they meet certain KPIs. So, we want them to record it so that, my goal would be that everyone's getting their 10% bonus.
nice. I like that. Real quick, thanks for listening. If you're getting any value out of this podcast, please take 2 seconds to hit the subscribe button and leave a 5-star review. It would really mean a lot to me. Now back to the show. So another thing I like, I went and looked at your website. I really like it. That's a cool website.
Oh, thanks.
Lots of good stuff on there. But one thing that stuck out to me, you have all your staff on there, all your employees, and you've got a client care coordinator role, and you've got a client hospitality coordinator role. And I'm curious what those two roles do and maybe what's the difference between them.
Yeah, well, the client hospitality role is definitely a pretty unique role, and it's a newish role in our office. Probably in the last 18 months. I'm not going to remember exactly when she switched from one role to the other, but that role is very much geared towards how do we provide truly unreasonable hospitality to our both potential clients, but also current clients. And that can be all kinds of things. In family law, clients get mad, like they get mad at just all kinds of things. They are having a bad time usually. You know what I mean? It's even if they want their divorce, it's still difficult. It's a process, it's expensive, it causes drama, there's a lot of things. So we have used it, and we've just recently developed a preventative part of this. So like if a legal pod in our firm feels like they have a client that is like kind of really struggling or having problems, maybe they're complaining about their bill or they're not understanding something, and they ask, multiple times, they will send it, the legal pod will send it in the preventative feedback loop. So then we can watch it and we can pay attention to it. And so our unreasonable hospitality coordinator, she might call that person and be like, what can I help you with? Because none of her work obviously is ever billable. So clients can talk to her time and time again. They can develop that relationship. They can ask, if they want to ask the same question about their bill 42 times, she is going to answer it 42 times. And she might give 41 different explanations to try to help them understand it. She is going to be as patient as the day is long and, really helping them. Whereas I'm not saying the legal teams won't be as patient, but they've got so much more pressure, to get the work out. And lawyers, they have to be in court or be in mediation. And when they're answering a question, for the 17th time, they're not billing the client for that, like they're like, I have not said this very well. What can I do better here? But that becomes a real tension, of them getting their work done. And so we have found that having this unreasonable hospitality role has been very powerful in addressing problems, both preventatively, but then also after the fact problems, where somebody might be angry about something and they're like, I want to talk to Elise. And a lot of times talking to Elise as your first line of defense is not the most helpful, because Elise might not know all the details of the things you actually really need Elise to know. So that unreasonable hospitality coordinator is going to pick up the phone, call the person, find out everything they're upset about. She's going to start like a little investigation. She's going to dig in with the legal team. She's going to dig in with the billing team, get and collect all her information. She's going to make a recommendation about what she thinks, should happen to address whatever the issue is. And then she's either going to determine, oh, I got this, I can handle it myself, or maybe she does need to elevate it to me. But then I've got an entire picture of what has happened. I've got a recommendation that's based on data and, information, not just me on a call with somebody going, that doesn't sound great. So it allows us, I think, to address people's needs. We can do it quicker, because all this background work is happening, and then any follow-up just gets put on my calendar, and I can have those communications and help navigate whatever the problem is. I mean, to be honest, most things get resolved without me, so it's not. And again, that's another thing that I was really bad at. I mean, I feel like this could be a whole podcast on all the things Elise is bad at, but when somebody would call me and they would be angry, I would just be like, oh, well, let's just give them a full refund. I mean, every time. And my billing person one time was like, well, Elise, are you actually like doing anything wrong, or are you giving them a refund because they just said they're mad? And she was like, you probably aren't going to be able to successfully pull off this business routine if you give every person a refund who just gets upset. And so she really started pushing on me to be like, well, did you do something actually fundamentally wrong? Like, or did they just lose and they're upset, with you? And one time she asked me, she goes, do you tell them they're all going to win? And I'm like, no, of course not. We can't do that. Like, we can't guarantee results. And she was like, well, then that's just part of the deal, And so, but it's hard, I think, as the owner, at least it was for me, to listen to upset people and not just immediately be like, just give them the money, like this will be easier and I'll just go deal with whatever I got to go deal with. Whereas now it is a much more thoughtful process, and, it's just, it got my emotions out of it. And,
I tell you, it probably takes a very special person to be able to do that. And so I could see hiring the right person that would actually do a lot. I mean, for you, for the clients, for everybody. And you taking it away from the actual attorneys, like you said, that are stressed out, billing every day. They're probably not the right person to do it. And I mean, you've probably found that these people just want somebody to listen to them. Yell and scream for a while, right?
100%. 100%. And if they really need to yell and scream even more, I am willing to hop on and listen to that, because, and so much of what we deal with is people who are just in fear. I mean, real, genuine fear for their family, their money. I mean, we are dealing with kids and money. Like, those are some important things to people.
Obviously family law is, prime time for that kind of role. I'm wondering what other types of practices something like that would actually be, pretty useful as well.
Criminal law, personal injury, anytime that you're really dealing with the public, that kind of has like they're faced with the legal process that they might not understand. I mean, I've worked with personal injury attorneys who have put it in place, and it has been game changing to have those deeper conversations about the medical stuff, what's going on, what kind of trouble are they having, getting into their doctor or getting, help. And then a lot of times that unreasonable hospitality coordinator can help with that. They might be able to let the attorney know, like, oh, this is why we're having to wait on this, and, this is what's going on. It just gives so much more depth and nuance to the communication with the client, which, if you ask me, that's always a win. The more I can understand what is driving my client, the better I can get to a result that will be a win for them.
And you mentioned working with other attorneys. Maybe that's a good segue. So you also, in addition to building and running this firm, you're a consultant to lawyers as well. So maybe explain what do you do there, and how did you get into that?
Well, I got into it randomly because I decided to just put a post out, and I was like, I'm going to do consulting. And I thought like maybe one or two people would reach out, but I was a little bit wrong about that. And so we got a lot of interest, and I was like, oh, okay. And so even with that, I would say again, Elise and her mistake making, again, I am not the right consultant for people who are not willing to do the real work, and they're not willing to like pull their data, learn how to read their data, be able to make data driven decisions, not, stomach driven decisions, and people who are not willing to be like really good leaders, which in my mind starts with pulling out that mirror and accepting that almost every darn problem you're facing is the leader's fault. Like, let's just be serious. I mean, I could probably name 10 problems in my office right now and explain to you how they tie back to me, and it's like, okay, but without realizing that, you're just playing this game of pointing your finger out the window at other people, and the same mistakes just repeat over and over again. I mean, I make a lot of mistakes, but often they're new mistakes. Like I'm like, oh, look, here's a new one we haven't done before. And I'm like, yippee, something else for me to learn.
So I'm a lawyer out there, and I'm thinking, hey, I need to hire somebody to consult with me. What types of people and what problems do you help solve?
Well, I mean, my favorite clients are family law firm family law firm attorney owners, just because it's what I know the best. So, it's just, and a billable hour model, in the sense of that was probably one of our biggest revelations, was understanding the leaky bucket of our billing engine and really being able to plug that leaky bucket. And that would almost be a whole nother podcast. But helping people understand how to ensure that they are in fact billing on invoices the amount that they say and they think they are, based on what they're paying their people. And so, I mean, we were able to plug about a $700,000 leak a few years ago, and it kind of revolutionized everything. Like, it helped us understand so many things. But so, I mean, my favorite clients are family law firm owners, people who are willing to roll up their sleeves, look at their data, people who are absolutely willing to look in the mirror, and I'm just going to be really blunt, people who can handle a really blunt person. Like, I am not the person who's going to just tell somebody what they want to hear just so we can like stay friendly and cozy and whatever. Like, if I actually think you're not doing the work and you're not trying and you're not whatever, I'm not going to keep taking your money. I'm going to tell you, like, I am not the right person for you. You should go find somebody else who's just going to tell you, yay, you're doing great, even though you're not doing anything. And so, because I am a firm believer in this work we're doing as law firm owners, it is hard. I mean, it is just plain hard. You should be getting a benefit from your firm, and it should be a genuine benefit. And when I see people who are taking home total owner benefits that are less than what they could be earning, less than what they could be earning at my firm, less than what they could be earning so many places, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, go get a day job, you know? And so, I mean, we have tight financial controls in our firm. We run it against those financial controls. Like, if we start creeping up in our people costs, or, creeping up in our operations cost, I mean, we are going to catch it immediately. And I'm going to be like, why? What are we doing? What is the trade-off here? And, what are we doing instead? And I have found that if you're willing to dig into your data, I mean, it really just changes your whole life, because I don't sit around and worry about things. I know exactly what our firm is earning week over week over week over week, almost to the dollar. I mean, it's kind of wild. When you really do understand your data, you're able to just make so much clearer decisions.
Have you always been a data person, or is this something that you developed over time?
Yeah, it's something I developed. I mean, I've always liked numbers. Like, I've always liked math. Like as a younger person, I liked math. I actually thought I was going to be a biomedical engineer, but I got to like that fourth level of calculus and I was like, woohoo, can't do that anymore. So I
I'm
had
an
to,
engineer, so I took a lot
yeah,
of calculus. Yeah.
yeah. So I changed that. But I realized as I was coming along in this journey, I mean, I read Brooke Lively's book, From Panic to Profit, and I think that book spoke to me. And then also Greg Crabtree's book, I think it's called like Small Numbers, Big Profits, or Big Profits, Small Numbers. I can't remember. It's an orange book, but I mean, he even has a second edition. That book spoke to me as well. And I think once I understood that, because I used to be like stressed about money, and really like, oh my gosh, am I going to pay payroll? I mean, now we save money, like, because we close our office 3 weeks during the year, two at the holidays and one at July 4th. So I have to like save money every pay period to pay those payrolls, when no revenue is coming in. I'm so slow on the uptake. I didn't do that for the longest time. And it was such a struggle. And now I'm like, got a whole system. I know exactly what I save every week. I know what gets in those savings. And we save for operational expenses, anything big. And like we've just gotten it down to this very scientific. I mean, it's kind of boring, you know, but it works. And it allows
Bor-
me to get the benefit out of the firm for all the effort and risk and time in, and it allows me to treat my people well because I'm not flying by the seat of my pants. Like, I know what's happening and I build it in our forecast.
Boring and financially secure is a lot better than excited and barely making ends meet. So,
It is to me for sure at this
yeah.
stage of the game. Maybe when I was 25, I don't know, maybe I would go for the more excitement, but in the 55-ish range, I'm like, I'll take boring and financially secure all day long.
So back to the coaching thing. So do you have a limit on how many folks you work with at a time? I
I
mean,
do.
how does that work? So if somebody's out there listening and they say, "Hey, I like what Elise is saying. I'm hiring her today." I mean, what's the process there?
Yeah, well, they'll reach out and I would do a Zoom to meet with them to kind of see if it would be a good fit, really dig into some of their situation. And then if I have an opening at the time, I would send them out a fee agreement. We don't have any type of long-term contract because like I said, I very much only want to work with people that it's a mutual thing that we're both, I feel like I can help them and they're getting something of value from it. So, but we have like a fee agreement, just setting up, some basic things, and then we can move forward. I mean, right now, I don't have any openings like today. I mean, I've been working with some people pretty consistently since I started, but then I've had a couple come and go, so that I've opened up two spaces or three spaces. But yeah, and I definitely limit it because I do offer unlimited like email, text, phone kind of communication. So if people are having things happening, I want them to feel like they can reach out to me right away in the moment because one, I feel like we can triage it really quickly. And so I found, at least when bad things were happening or I was stressed out about something, if I had had somebody that I could call and be like, can I have 15 minutes of your time right now and we could talk through this? That would have been game changing, to help me. And so that is something that I very much want to keep, is that tight one-on-one thing where people will, they'll be like, I'm interviewing the attorney now. Like, they've said they want this, and I'll be like, well, I'll run some quick numbers for you while you're in your interview, and I'm able to run an ROI on that employee, that maybe what they've asked for, and, give them some guidance on that. And so it's, I love that part of it because anything I can do to bring people down from the ceiling where they are not as stressed, like that really means something to me because I do feel like this is so, it just can be so stressful.
So you've been running your firm for a while. You've been coaching other lawyers and helping them run their firms. Are there any top lessons perhaps to other law firm owners out there, perhaps that you think
Absolutely.
they should focus on?
One, if you have employees, you need EPLI insurance. Every single person with an employee, I didn't know about that insurance for a very long time, despite having an employment attorney. But so get EPLI insurance. And two, get your finances in order. Like if you are not using a solid bookkeeper who is, one, ensuring that your trust account is being reconciled 3 ways every day, every week, every month, that you're not getting your books like by the 5th or 6th of every month so that you know exactly what is happening in your books. Because until you have your books where you understand them, I mean, you're literally flying your plane blind. I mean, forget flying it while you're building it, which we all joke about. I mean, you have a blindfold on while you're building it. And it is so critical to understanding what you're doing. And I mean, you will find so many leaky buckets in your firm if you deeply understand your P&L.
Such great advice. So we've been going at it for a while. I want to ask all my guests this. You've got your coaching business, you've got your law firm, you've got your personal stuff. As you look forward for the next 10, 15, 20 years, what's the vision? What's next?
Well, I don't know that I can share that. It's a secret. I might have to kill you if I tell you.
Okay. That's fair.
We're literally in the infancy stage of something really big and exciting. And so I really can't share it. Like it is, right now I'm working I have a new strategic growth officer. And it's funny, when we were interviewing and doing the work together, because I have a COO who kind of keeps the trains on time. And this new chief strategic growth officer, she lays new tracks. And so it's kind of interesting to work with the two of them and, see how we can always improve our current train system, but then how can we, go to new places?
I love the mystery. You got me. So we're going to have to get you back on once it's happened. You're going to have to, then you can tell us, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. All right. Well, Elise, I appreciate you coming on. This has been awesome, fun, a lot of gold that you've been dropping. For anybody out there that wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
Probably just reach out to my email, and I'm sure we can put that in the podcast notes, but it's Elise B at EliseBuieFamilyLaw.com. And I would be happy to talk to anybody. I'm really kind of an open book. So sometimes people reach out and they just want to see, like, what report do you have? What do you do? How do you measure this? How do you do this? I'm happy to share those things.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you for coming on. It's been awesome.
Yeah, thank you. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Founding Partner Podcast. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts to stay up to date on the latest episodes. You can also connect with Jonathan on LinkedIn and check out the show notes with links to resources mentioned throughout our discussion by visiting www.lawfirmgc.com. We'll see you next time for more origin stories and insights from successful law firm founders.